All right, so our trainer is here and ready to go. Today, part 2 of leadership, and we're going to talk about tactics, I think goals and objectives. So none other, drum roll, than the great Michael King and the Communities Project.
Hey, Miss Cheryl. Good morning, everybody. Good to see folks back again. I texted Miss Cheryl after the time we hung out last weekend, and I was saying, it's really, I just want to, if I may indulge for a second, it's really, really an honor to spend time with all of you. And I'm just so touched to get that opportunity to hear from all of you and invest in your community and in the organizations that you all are working with. It's really a blessing. So I just want to really thank everybody. And you all are so lucky to have Miss Cheryl and to be here with all of you. So what I want to do, if it's all right here, Miss Cheryl, is I'm going to share my screen with everybody. And then I'm going to do a little bit of this, make it all, hold on, let's see. It'll work. One sec, sorry. There we go. Everyone just see my screen there for you all?
Yes, I can see it. Yes.
Yes, we can see it.
Good deal. I just want to make sure you're not catching all my cheat notes in there. That's why I'm checking in. But this is what I was thinking about, how to go with this conversation today, right? Of goals, strategies, and tactics. And so what I was thinking we could do is I want to go through this morning here. And, you know, the context of this presentation, something that came up about, last week was how do we really bring about all this powerful change that we need to bring about in our communities, right? And the fact of the matter is, an old mentor of mine, when I still worked in the political world, always said, plan your work and work your plan. And if it's not written down, it's not a plan, right? So really, how can we come together and how can we actually build a plan in our communities to organize them and to organize and then execute, right? And it starts by understanding, the difference. What are the goals that I'm really, really, really looking forward to, right? What are the goals that I really want to accomplish and how am I going to get there? So what I want to pitch is that this morning, I'm going to walk through the differences between goals, strategies, and tactics. And the reason why I think that this is a valuable place to start this conversation is because oftentimes groups kind of bungle this stuff up, like they mix up what's a tactic versus what's a goal. So they'll be working, all night long, 7 days a week on certain things, and yet they're never quite reaching the goals, that they're never getting the things done they want to see get done. So what I want to do is break down, how do you actually build, structure a real plan in a community that's going to get you moving forward, right? Because you always know what you're doing next. But then I want to take a break. And after break, I want to turn it over to all of you. And I'm going to play facilitator in this conversation based on how we are defining these different things. I'm going to start taking down some notes on what you all tell me about the goals, the strategies, the tactics that you can be carrying out in your community. And then Ms. Cheryl, what I was thinking is I will then get this all to you based on what you say. So I'm going to give you all a framework to work from, but then you're going to write your plan. And you're going to talk about what you're doing right here. And then I'll send it to you. And then, Ms. Cheryl, we can talk afterwards about other stuff.
I'm sorry, Michael. Yes, because part of the final deliverables for LAM to TPI, and I've been very transparent with the members here, they want to see like a roadmap. So right. I know we're going to create like some kind of infographic, right? And it may literally look like the yellow brick road or something. I'm going to figure that out. We'll let our graphic designer, but that's what I'm trying to synthesize from these 4 months. We've been at this 4 months with various types of training. This I saved the best for last because this is truly them understanding you have to invest in yourself first. That's a part. It's not just all the stuff we do. It's also who we are and who we work on being every single day. You got to re-choose. But I'm getting away. So I just want to say that to you as we're building. Yes, you could help me build the pieces that will contribute to the roadmap from CAP to unincorporated neighborhood councils. These become the grassroots level of government, of governance for the county of LA. Like that's Huge. It just didn't exist before. There's one in the city. Now, this will be the very first official plan to go in, and they're going to tear it up. It's going to, it's not going to come out, but we don't care. We sat down and put it together and got it there. That's going to be our result, that we're all going to travel around and do our retirement tours to tell other communities. Okay, that's it, Michael. Thank you.
I love it. So here, folks, let's start talking about this a little bit. And like I was saying, what happens a lot when we think like, all right, we're ready, we're tired of the nonsense we're seeing in our community. We want to build something so much bigger, right? So we kind of set out and we start to do it, but we don't really have like a structure that we work off of. We kind of we wake up, we think about what's driving us that day, and we go do it. And, there's good things about that. But what I'm going to offer to you all here, and this is a framework that is used, it has been used. I mean, I didn't come up with anything you're going to be hearing today. I'll put it that way, right? This is time-tested community organizing, plan building and development. So goals, strategies, and tactics is really how we break down how you build a really successful plan in a community. And it's something that you can always point back to, right? And what am I doing right now? Well, is it part of my plan? What tactic am I using? What strategy am I carrying out? What goal am I reaching for? And there's even something that really comes before goals, right? And that's a common vision. So sometimes we can confuse what goals are versus what vision is, right? Visions, it's like the overarching dream that drives us, right? So the example I have here for you, right? Providing affordable, safe housing for every individual. That's a vision. We visualize a community and a town, a city, a county where every person, man, woman, child, has a safe and affordable place to live. That's a vision. But goals, and we're going to talk more about the specifics of this in a little bit, but goals are very specific, measurable results, right? Providing affordable, safe housing for every individual is that broad dream. But we probably have a series of goals that we want to attain in order to serve that vision. Goals are measurable results we achieve in the service of that vision. So our first, if that was our vision, right? If we were working for specifically on, say, affordable housing issues, a goal I might set would be getting 10,000 residential units built in the next 5 years. That's a goal, right? It's a goal that serves that bigger vision, but it's measurable. It's clear. We know if we got there, we know if we didn't. Right? 10,000 units in the next 5 years. I run this thing called the Communities Project, right? It's just an initiative that I started. The Initiative Project has really the vision of seeing fewer people lose their lives to substance use disorder, right? We want to see fewer deaths. The goal that I set for the initiative was to save 1 million lives from substance use related deaths over the next 2 decades. Does everybody hear the difference there between a vision and a goal? You can write in the chat if you want to stay muted. Everybody hearing the fundamental differences between vision and goal? So I should really call this workshop Vision, Goals, Strategies, and Tactics, because it's really important to actually understand the difference. Sometimes we will confuse vision for goal, and what ends up happening is, it takes longer than we hope to reach it, and then we start to feel discouraged, and then we get trapped, then we get stuck, right? So we'll talk in a little bit. What's the big vision? And then what are the goals that you can reach in service of that vision, right? I'll pause really quick. Is anybody hearing anything here or any questions kind of coming up here? Because this is actually, when it comes to organizing, this is a big step where I've seen a lot of groups get kind of tripped up, thinking that they're operating towards a goal when really they're just thinking about their vision and they haven't broken it out yet. Anybody have any questions or thoughts bubbling up here on this before we keep trudging forward? I'm going to pause a lot and make sure see how everyone's doing and check in.
For me, this is Kevin.
Hey,
it was
Kevin.
kind of awkward because I took somebody's vision and put goals to it and achieved what he couldn't do. And so, and it kind of created a kind of the rift between us two because he just had a vision, but he had no way of knowing how to get there and make it reality. I ended up taking it and brought that vision to reality.
Right. I love that. Kevin, it's so true. Goals are what make visions real, right? Visions are it's the dream, right? We all have dreams, right? Vision, it's like, I want to marry, I know I want to get married to a smart, beautiful, amazing woman, right? I'm not channeling any of my own stuff here or anything like that. I know I want to marry an amazing, beautiful, smart, intelligent woman, right? That's my vision, right? But if I don't ask anybody out on a date, right? If I don't have 2 dates in a month, well, I'm never going to meet that person, right? It's kind of a goofy little comparison here, but that's what I'm talking about, right? You can think about it all we want. We can dream about what we want. We should dream about what we want. It's important to dream about what we want. But goals, like Kevin's saying, is what makes it real. So these are the things I'm going to get done to serve that vision. I see Monica in the chat. Vision's the big idea. Goals are the steps to get there. That's absolutely right. But groups get tripped up on this, and people get tripped up on this, all right, a lot. So it's important to understand the difference, and it's important to have both. Right?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Cheryl. I see you off mute. Go ahead.
Well, and I just want to add, and I'm correlating it to what I did this past year was, the goal was to raise X amount of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And the applicants that we had were double what we had last year. So we were in a, oh my God, situation. And then the process of elimination. But then the monies that came in exceeded the goal.
Oh,
because the effort was put out there to raise the money.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely understand the correlation. And the other thing is just starting early. Putting, all your efforts out there early, because you already have that vision. But to achieve that goal, sometimes you have to start way ahead of the horses.
It's absolutely right. And this is what we're going to dive into, Cheryl. I love this. Knowing exactly what it is we're doing. And that sounds kind of like, well, of course, right? It sounds like kind of what I like to call a Captain Obvious moment, right? But the truth is, a lot of times we have a vision, and sometimes we even have goals. But then we wake up, we roll out of bed in the morning, and we're not really sure. We kind of have to sit there and ponder what we're going to do that day. And if we're really going to organize in communities, it's all down on paper, right? This is what we're working on, and these are the things we're putting into practice. And that's what we're going to be talking about here is how do we actually what's a structure we can use to really build that plan and then commit to sticking to it. Doesn't mean we aren't flexible, doesn't mean we don't change up when we need to, but we have a structure in mind. Again, folks, an old friend of mine in the political world, he ran for governor of a state at one point. He is a mentor of mine. He always said, plan your work and work your plan. And if it's not written down, it's not a plan. If it's just up here, it's not a plan. Put it down. So I love this picture. People always ask me if I drew this picture, and sadly, I'm not actually even a good enough artist to draw this picture for you, but I think it's a good kind of simple illustration of the differences then between a goal, a strategy, and a tactic, right? So we have our vision. Our vision, let's say, is to live in a safe home. Let's say that's our vision. And our goal is to get home every night. That's our goal. We want to get home every night. So the strategy is to take the river. We're going to take the river in order to get to that safe home every night. There's other strategies we could take, right? We could go through that desert with whatever the heck that's supposed to be, some really scary looking creature. I don't even want to know what that is. That could be our strategy. We could try to hike over these mountains. That could be a strategy, but the strategy we're using in order to reach our goal of getting home is to take the river. So how are we taking the river? We use a boat. That's our tactic, right? That's the tool we're using in order to execute our strategy in order to get home. Is it a scorpion, Andre? It's the biggest darn scorpion I've ever seen. That thing freaks me out. Every time I see this picture, I'm glad I'm not going through that darn desert.
Right? He eating good out there.
Yeah, he's eating the people who chose not to take the river, right? Who chose the wrong tactic here, I think.
Right.
So this is, it's kind of a silly little cartoon here, but I think it kind of like nicely illustrates the real differences here between what's a goal, what's a strategy, and what's a tactic. And here's the actual like definitions here, right? A vision is the big dream. Goals are the measurable results that we achieve in service of that vision. Right? So again, go back to the example I used before, a safe, affordable home for everybody, 10,000 units in the next 5 years. That's a goal. It's a measurable result, right? Maybe there's a law that we want to get passed that can help get this, achieve this vision. That would be a goal, right? To get that law passed. Maybe we need to raise a certain amount of money, like Cheryl was saying earlier. That's another goal. We have tons of goals that we are always working to reach in service of our greater vision. So we have the goals, and then we have these strategies. Strategies are the different approaches we're taking to reach that goal. So let's say our goal is to raise $50,000 in the next year in service of that vision, right? Of creating a safe, affordable home for everybody. A goal, we want to raise $50,000 in the next year. A strategy might be to, I'm trying to think of just off the top of my head what a good strategy might be for is that would be to build a low dollar fundraising campaign, right? Something where ordinary folks who aren't making money head over foot can still give what they can to a cause, right? So building and executing a low dollar fundraising campaign might be one of the strategies that we put into place to raise that 50 grand. And then the tactics are the tools we use to execute that strategy. Maybe it's calling every single person on a list that all of our partners have. I'm just coming up with these off the top of my head, right? But the tactics are the tools we're using to execute our strategies. So taking that boat on the river, right? We know the river is the approach we're going to take to get home. The boat is the tool we need to use. There's other tools we could use too, right? We could float, we could swim, we could do other things. Lots of different tools we could use to execute our strategy. So again, folks, the vision is the dream. Where do we really want to get to here? The goal is all those different results that we are working towards in service of that dream. Strategies, these are the approaches we're taking to reach our goals. And then tactics are the tools we're using in order to carry out those strategies. So I'm curious, two things I want to throw out to everybody here. One, anything bubbling up for you around these definitions, just any questions or what are you hearing, right? What are you hearing for yourself in this? And second, I'm curious for each of you personally, are there any specific goals that you see yourself working towards right now? What are some like measurable results that you're working towards, either at work or maybe in your life? If you're willing to share, that's fine too. Go ahead, LV.
Well, the goals I'm working on now is to build capacity for my nonprofit. So LV, can I ask you a question? Yes.
So LV, when you say build capacity, right? So that can mean a lot of different things, right? Yes. So how do you think you could, how could you restate that in a way where it's like measurable?
Okay. The tools I'm using to build a capacity is the digital, the computer, getting on these calls, getting the information. And my approach is getting different insights from people with experience that has successful nonprofits. And my goal really is to be able to absorb the funding and the resources that's available so I can accomplish my mission, reach my vision.
So LV, I think I'll offer to you. I think if you say that you want to build capacity for your nonprofit, I almost wonder if that's a little more of a vision. And I think your tactic and your strategy is spot on. Maybe the goal, maybe one of several goals you could put in would be to, again, raise a certain amount of money in the next year.
Yes.
I almost think that what I just heard is I wonder if you have a vision and you got some strategies and tactics, and what you just need to insert now is a couple goals that you're working towards, specific goals to serve that vision. Does that make sense, LV?
Yes. One of my goals right now is getting the accounting part together. So I hired an accountant to help me with my taxes and my 941. So I got the Gusto. So that's what I'm working on now, to get my accounting together. So when I report this to the IRS, I don't have any problems.
Awesome. So if you want, LV, what I might suggest even is like, and I'll say this to everybody, because I think this is important. Whenever we have a goal like that, and I think, getting an accounting team lined up totally works as a goal. What I would suggest, if you're building a plan, and again, folks, write it down, right? It's not written down. It's not a plan. Write it down somewhere, is to say, get my accounting team together by September of 2021, because now you've made it measurable, right? I know if I hit it, and I know if I didn't.
Yeah, I'm hearing. So I got my accounting team together. I reached that goal already. That was a goal I had last year.
Awesome.
And to get QuickBooks and Gusto lined up, so I can, if they need a quarterly report, all I have to do is push a button and it prints out, so I don't be stressed out about how I'm gonna get a quarterly report together. So I got that together. So I'm still building my team.
That's awesome. So what I would say for everybody, thanks LV for contributing this, because I think it's great. What I would say to everybody, the key when you're figuring out what your goals are is to make sure they're measurable, right? Always make sure they have that, you can measure them in some way. So a lot of times we'll say, well, my goal is to, I want to, I'll use the example I used before, right? My goal is to get a certain amount of housing units opened. If my vision is, I just keep going back to the affordable housing example that I came up with, right? We'll put a number on it, put a time frame on it. And now you make it measurable. And folks, if you don't achieve it, and again, this will be repeat for people who went through the leadership training months ago, it's okay. It's just a fail. You just came up short. It's fine. You can reset the goal, right? There's going to be goals you put out there that you don't reach. That's okay. It's going to happen. So you don't need to be tough on yourself or judge yourself for it. Just own it, be responsible for it, and switch up your goal. It's totally fine. Right? I see a couple things over here in the chat. One goal is to create my nonprofit's financial systems and report, complete my nonprofit annual filings by 60 days from today. So again, I love that. Thank you, Sho. By 60 days from today, that's the key. That's what makes all those things goals. I'm always coaching folks they know what they want to do, but they don't have that measurable part in there. And I always say, just throw a measurement in there and you got yourself a goal to work towards, right? But if you don't have that measurable on there, you can just spend your whole life working towards it and you never actually know where you're going, or you're never actually setting your sights on it. It kind of stays, like Kevin was saying earlier, it kind of stays more a thought in your head than something concrete. So I love that. And Andre, you're so right, man. Failure, folks, this is leadership training repeat again. So I apologize for those of you who went through it. Everything we do as leaders produces a result. Some of those results are successes. Some of them are fails. The key is that we don't have to judge any of it. Success is just success and fail is just fail, as long as we take responsibility for whatever we contributed to either of them. Be responsible for our successes, be responsible for our fails. Just be responsible.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah, Andre, please go ahead.
I'm even looking at fail, because it has a negative connotation when people hear fail. In any of its variations, in any variation of the word failure, it's a negative connotation. But in this case, the failure is actually something to learn from. So it's not even a failure. You got the opportunity to learn something right there, and then from that point forward, you can make the correction to move toward your success.
Andre, I like that. Andre, the only thing I'd offer is a slight reframe on that is, even you're correct to say that we just put this huge negative thing onto the idea of fail. And it's kind of funny because we're all going to do it. So why be so negative about it? It's just what happened. And part of leading responsibly, I don't want to get too off track here. It's a whole different training, right? But part of leading responsibly is not adding meaning onto things. Just because you came up short somewhere doesn't mean that we will literally try to tell ourselves that we're a bad person because we came up short somewhere, and it's crazy. It's just that we're putting meaning onto it. It all comes back to just being responsible. And it's true that when we do fail, it's a learning opportunity. There's truth to that. The only thing I always want to call out when I hear that is to say, but make sure that you're responsible for the impact your failures have on other people. So like, just to use a silly example, like say I went out too late last night and I overslept and I showed up late to the workshop here with all of you, or maybe I was just too tired and I didn't execute. I could say, crap. Well, Michael, lesson learned, right? Next time, don't stay out too late when you got a Saturday workshop. That's fine. I can learn from that, but I'd also have to be responsible for the fact that I wasted all your time and I wasted Miss Cheryl's money at the same time too. I have to be responsible for the impact that my fail has on other people. Does that make sense, Andre?
Yeah, definitely. Don't be late, bro.
I'm not gonna be late. And folks, I've been pumped for this. I'm all coffeeed up. I'm ready for y'all. I'm ready to go here. So I don't want to, and I want to make Miss Cheryl happy because I love Miss Cheryl. So that's my goal for the day. Make sure Miss Cheryl X amount happy by 11:30. That's what I'm working towards here. Anybody else want to share here?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, this is something in the work that I do is in the saving lives. So when we started this like 15 years ago, our goal was to save lives. So at the end of the day, when we had these meetings with city officials, people all want to measure about well, for us, like I said, how do we track? Well, they know how to track how much it costs for loss of life. How do you measure, or how do you measure the lives that were saved? So these are things that we battle with, trying to capture data on that. They can get all the data on someone's getting killed. They know how much money to put away for the investigation. Somebody go to be caught to trial, how much it's going to be. It's like $1.some million. We always fighting over how much can you measure and put towards saving just a life. How do we strategize that and make that some type of reality so we can capture data for funding.
Kevin, it's a great question. And, I think I mentioned I've done a lot of work around substance use issues specifically. So it comes up a lot, is how do we actually track how many lives we're saving? So with one group that I've been working with recently, what they're actually putting out there is they have a similar vision, right? We want to save lives from a certain kind of fatality. That's a vision, right? It's the dream. One of the goals that they actually set out was to get some laws passed locally to make sure that certain data was being tracked. That was actually one of the goals that they came up with. Was they haven't done it yet, but they want to work to get a law passed through their local county board. I can't remember what they call it in their state, where they have to track a certain kind of data and to actually put it in the law that they have to do it. So if there is something out there that we want to achieve, and we actually don't know if we have a way to measure it, sometimes one of the first goals that you work towards is figuring out how do we actually measure it, right? Sometimes it's getting a law passed. Sometimes it's just changing a policy in a local organization that does that type of work, right? So I would say make that one of your goals, because having data is important. It's actually, and it's not very sexy, but it's actually really important in service of our greater vision, right? We want to be able to point to the numbers and say, look what we did. Well, if the numbers don't live there, then one of our goals need to be to create the numbers, figure out how to do that. Does that make sense, Kevin?
Yes, it does, because that basically bring me to where we are now. So we saw a lot of grassroots agencies across the city got together, and we noticed that the data that we have with intervention and law enforcement working together, we've seen how crime went down, loss of life went down considerably. We got the data to show that, and that gave us with that information, we took it to our city officials and stuff like that. Now it's in the White House, where now we're able to leverage them to leverage resources for our communities to the term of like what $1.3 billion now. So we got their attention because we got the data to match the work we've been doing, and we know that having these resources in these communities as they have in the other communities, we know that data save lives. So that's the data we use from the past work we've been doing.
That's awesome. I love that, Kevin. Thanks for contributing that too. Yeah, folks, we all have these visions, and sometimes when we have these big visions, we have 10 different goals that we want to work towards, right? It's tons and tons of goals. then internally, we just have to be strategic about what goal matches to what, right? So if I want to do one thing, I might need to achieve something else first, right? It's almost like building, I always say like a good plan is like building a pyramid, right? You got a vision at the top, and then you got like however many goals underneath it. And then you got however many strategies connected to each goal. And then you got a whole bunch of tactics connected to each strategy, right? It's like building a big pyramid and writing it all down. And when it's written all down, if we were in person right now, I'd have one of those big, big whiteboard type of things, right? And just later on, I'd write it all down, everything you guys all say. And then you can take it and then you figure out the timeline. What do you have to do first, right? But this is where, like, when we really want to organize, folks, we really want to bring about change, we got to be thorough about it. I mean, we got to put it down on paper and stick to it, right? And everybody has to commit to it together, because not everyone's going to agree. Think about the conflict stuff we talked about last week, right? Not everyone's going to agree on the approach, but the question is, can we all commit to the vision? Thanks, Kevin. Anybody else have anything on this specifically before we keep diving in here?
I love what Kevin just said, because he just gave us one of our roadmap steps. So I'm just going to name it. I'm going to claim it. And I've been putting it in the chat. And I think it is to involve the members, the residents, in an ongoing role in the data collection, the analysis, the interpretation, and the distribution of the information. You all need to have an exact role in that, and we need to work that relationship out by November this year. So the top of next year, you guys can move and operate in that authority. Like that's square, right? That there. And I think you named a second one, Kevin. A second roadmap step should be that there is a programmatic link to the data team to make sure that you're reporting and capturing the elements that would help you define your mission, which is to save lives, grow lives. Right? You want to put a value on that. How does that contribute to the quality of life in these two communities? Right? And you're going to monitor that. So, right on. That's cool. We got 2 steps, very clear. I love it. I just wanted to say that. I wanted to name it. I think those are 2 really important, and those are doable. Like, these are things the CAP members could ask for, and you'd be right there. And even begin to define staff roles. In your new role, you want staff roles. So, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I know we don't have a lot of time together. Excuse me.
No, Michelle, it's great. And actually, I was going to ask, because like I said, when we're done today, I want to type up stuff and send it over to you. Let me ask Kenneth, can you, when we're done, are you all okay, Kenneth, if you save the chat, because there's a ton of stuff happening here in the chat that's really great, and emailing it to me so I can include that in what I type up too? Is that something you can do, Kenneth? Is that okay with you too, Miss Cheryl?
Yeah, we can get that to you right now.
We can get that to you. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, just because I think that there's a ton of good stuff going on over there, and I don't want to miss it when I type it all up. Thank you, Kenneth. I appreciate that, man.
No problem.
So again, what I love about where you all are going with this conversation right now, and you're probably hearing it, some of the goals that you're going to work towards here, it's not all sexy. It's just not, right? But it's really important. Like, how are you actually going to track the data? Is there a way to do it? Sometimes you're lucky. Sometimes something you're trying to track is already there. Great. There you go. Don't have to work towards that. But sometimes it's not. And you got to create that too. And the creation of it makes it measurable. It's the single most important thing, folks, when you are outlining the goals that you're working towards. Make them measurable. Get it done by a certain date. How much of it are you going to get done, right? Opening something by a certain date makes it a goal. You can measure that. Getting 50 of something done by a certain date, it's measurable. You got it. But make it measurable. And make it measurable, folks, and this is important, and reasonable. Don't bite off more you can chew, because you're going to have fails, right? But you can minimize those fails by making your goals reasonable. One of the hard things, whenever we're organizing a community, it's because we really, something is, I'm just gonna, and pardon my French, I hope people aren't too offended. I won't make it too dirty, but it's because things are screwed up. That's why we're organizing. Like, it doesn't matter what the issue is. We're only organizing a community because something is screwed up and we've got to change it, right? So when we really feel passionately about that change, we want it to happen yesterday. We don't want to be patient, not when this stuff's going on, not when people are dying in communities, not when people are on the streets, not when people keep getting high, not when people can't eat. We want to get it done yesterday. Use that drive, but make your goals reasonable, make them attainable. By doing that, you're going to motivate more and more and more people to join you in what you're doing. And the more people you're motivating to join you in what you're doing, you're inspiring them and you're empowering them, the more goals you're going to reach. So if you have two goals next to each other and one is really hard and one's not quite as hard, and you're trying to figure out which one to do first, I always say go for the easier one first, because there's going to be motivation that comes out of that that's going to make the harder one easier to get. Does everyone get me there? Everyone follow me?
Oh, no, I was just saying the information you're sharing is brilliant. And it's something that I do utilize even in my other work. And it's required, with my office, that we have our goals, we have our objectives, we have our successes and our failures. And so we push through the failure. We fail forward. What can we do better? How did that work or how did it not work? And we share it with others. So it's, it's very powerful processes that we need to keep going and keep doing because it works. It works. But thank you for that.
Thank you, Monica. Hey, Cheryl.
I just wanted to say that, one of the things my mom instilled in me was the stepping stones of life. And to say that something is a failure, she instilled in me the fact that when you consider having failures, it's just the ability to get up and dust yourself off and keep going.
That's right.
And that's the avenue to the goals.
That's right.
And part of it is learning from it too, right? Part of it is, you learn something from that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And you learn something too when you take responsibility, right? Because if you did something, right, if we take responsibility for whatever it is we contributed to that fail, we can go, oh man, I did this. It produced a fail. I want to produce fails. So I'm going to do something different next time, right? And it goes the other way too. If something we're doing is really working, just like all the amazing work you're doing, Cheryl, that you talked about at the beginning today, right? If something you're doing is really working, then you have to figure out what is it that I'm putting into all this success. I bet I'm going to be responsible for that because I'm going to keep doing it because it's working, right? So responsibility goes both ways, right? It's not just about fails. It's also about greatness and being responsible.
Absolutely. And not surrounding yourself with the naysayers. There's a lot of naysayers. Oh, but you have to let it fall on deaf ears.
Yep. We got to, I think President Obama said one time in one of his speeches, he talked about letting ourselves be surrounded by a chorus of cynics, right? Right? It's our job to be it's our responsibility to be the opposite. Go ahead, Michelle.
What came up for me was this tugging that I have with myself about some of the things that my failures, they shape me more than I actually learn something. They actually shape me. I get a bend or a twist in somewhere where it wasn't there before. So I experienced it. It was it was enlightening, like they say. And I don't know if that makes me unique, but so my growth from failures, it has these phases. So I can learn something, but that's so mechanical for me. I intentionally learn because I want to be a well-informed person. But my failures, I find, and this is where I struggle to also be a good coach for some of the people I work with at the community, is these experiences, these failures, they also shape you. And that's very hard to measure. So when you multiply that times a community of 1,200 people, you're like, oh my God, it's more than just unlearning something or learning something, right? The verb goes both ways. So I just think, Michael, too, sometimes when you're dealing with these communities and communities of color, there is this mother wit that we just can't factor out. And it's gonna be there even with all the other stuff. And we don't want to lose that. I feel it changes the shape if we learn them so much that they lose that. It actually becomes something else. And that's the sweet spot, of my failures. I err on the side of, we don't want to lose our mother wit.
Yeah.
So I might have to take that one, you know what I mean? Something like that, then to convert or give in. I don't know if I'm making sense. I'm rambling now. Sorry.
Well, no, Michelle, what I want to throw out there, so, and this might have come up last week, I can't recall, folks, but something that I say to folks a lot when I have the pleasure to do trainings and workshops with them is people will talk a lot about the emotions that they feel, the feelings they get as a result of, frankly, both their successes and their failures, right? And sometimes there's a mistake that I think we make in our leadership and in our organizing where we think that our emotions kind of need to be pushed to the side. And I differ. I don't agree with that, right? Our emotions, and what I just heard from you, Ms. Cheryl, was I heard enormous amounts of wisdom, right? Our emotions are really just wisdom advisors. So if we can look at whatever feelings are coming up for us as nuggets of wisdom, what are they telling us? What are they telling us? So whatever we get personally out of those fails or those successes, whatever it makes us feel, whatever comes up for us, just pause and take a second to think, what is the wisdom of what I'm feeling? What I just heard from you, what I heard, Cheryl, in sort of Michael language, right through you, was like tons upon tons upon tons of wisdom that comes out of this stuff. So folks, what is the wisdom of our feelings as CAP members? Folks, explore that stuff. Explore it together, right? So if it's all right, folks, I am going to chug us ahead here just because we are going to start running a little low on time and I want to make sure we can get to all of you. So I'm going to kind of breeze through here, just kind of, again, how we're defining some of this stuff. So we talked about visions being our dream, the dream that we're going for, and goals being those measurable results that are in service of our dream and service of our vision. Well, the strategies are the approaches we're taking to achieve the goals, right? And generally speaking, we're living in our strategies. Like in any given week at work, that week, we're really living in our strategy. And sometimes we can actually mistake a strategy for a goal. And it's totally normal to do that because it's what we're really living in. Like if my goal is to open 10,000 affordable housing units in the next 5 years, it's not like every day I go to work and I count how many have been opened, right? I go to work every day and I'm thinking about all of the listening sessions that I'm hosting with community members. That's one of my strategies towards that goal, right? Or really, I'm thinking about how am I raising awareness, to use the example on here, right? Raising awareness about the need for more affordable housing, for example. Raising awareness isn't the goal, right? Raising awareness is a strategy that I'm carrying out in order to get those 10,000 units open. So all week I'm thinking about what am I doing right now to raise awareness? So I can think that my goal is raising awareness, right? But really it's a strategy. And that's, for example, that's a really common strategy for a lot of these issues, right? So here's just some of the most common strategies that I see in strategic plans, right? Usually there's some level of raising awareness, right? Because a lot of times, one of the reasons, just one of them, there's a heck of a lot more, but one of the reasons why an issue hasn't been solved yet, why we don't have affordable housing units available, is because sometimes, and it's frustrating, but it's just true, the people in positions of power, some of them, not all of them, some of them aren't even aware, right? The public sometimes isn't aware of the extent of a problem. So usually one of the strategies we're carrying out is some kind of raising awareness campaign. Sometimes part of raising awareness can involve something we talked about last week, creating conflict. Sometimes that's one of the tactics, we'll get into that in a minute, that we're carrying out in order to execute that strategy. Education campaigns, same type of thing. Ongoing development and growth of your base of support. What I mean is, one of the strategies that you're doing is always bringing more people into the cause, right? So these are strategies. Strategies are the approaches we're taking to reach our goals. And there's a heck of a lot more than this. These are just some of the common ones that I've seen a lot. There are very few issues I've had the pleasure to work on that some kind of raising awareness was not involved in the process. And then we have tactics. So tactics are the tools you're using to carry out your strategy. So again, I know I'm playing out the same example. It's just because it's the one I came up with beforehand to share with everybody, that the vision I have is that everybody lives in a safe and affordable home in my community. The goal I've set is that I'm going to get 10,000 affordable housing units open in the next 5 years. One of the strategies I'm using is I want to raise awareness as to why this is such an important issue in this community. One of the tactics I'm using in order to raise awareness might be to host listening sessions around the community, to hear from the community members, right? And to invite other community members in to hear what these communities are going through. That would be a tool. That's a tool that I'm using in order to raise awareness, in order to get those housing units built, in order to get affordable housing for everyone. I'm going to pause really quick here. Actually, I'm going to these are some of the most common tactics that I've seen, right? Listening sessions, like I just said, letter to the editor campaigns. That's starting to get a little outdated, but sometimes those local papers, people still read them, especially community newspapers, more even than citywide sometimes. Social media, I hate social media, but man, it's here to stay. And sometimes we got to find ways to use it, right? Sharing stories, I say, of recovery on here, right? Sharing stories, getting people out there, empowering individuals to join that cause and to speak out on behalf of it, right? These are all some of the most common tools that we use to carry out strategies. And there's going to be more. You all are going to come up with more here. So given where we are on time, though, I want to pause real quick because I want to let everyone stretch for 10 minutes. But before I do, looking back at goals, strategies, tactics, just the basic definitions of what is what. Anybody have any questions or thoughts? What's coming up for you right now before we break for 10 minutes? What's bubbling up for all of you? Going once, going twice. I'm looking at Cheryl here. Create 1 to 2 organizations. Oh, go ahead, Cheryl.
I see, again, more steps in our roadmap. So we can reword some of these to match our local concerns, instead of sharing stories of recovery, sharing stories of saving lives,
right?
Something like that, sharing stories of coping with loss. We get to tell the story. So there's lots of them. So I could see that becoming one of the ongoing tactics. Like we formalize that, we identify who identifies the stories, who gets to summarize and synthesize, and then who gets to tell. All those are meetings in and of themselves to make those decisions. Who needs to be at the table to decide that and when? These are great things that we could reshape, and that's appropriate role for the CAP, and they could set these. So social media, we're growing in that. We've been building an ecosystem of our own since December. We collectively won maybe about 50,000 in all the small nonprofits that we organized. And so now that same group, they have 4 months of outcomes. So we're going to take that program success, repackage it, distribute it to 2 more local funders, and grow our networks more. So now our messaging will be better, stronger. We understand how to report. So I can see, I'm just excited because you're helping my work, Michael. I'm sorry. It's all these are going to be things that we could do, but just tailor them to, who we are locally.
That's right. Well, and that's why the best organizing plans, I always say, folks, someone like me can come in and give folks a framework, but you all know your community, right? Like, never trust anybody who comes in and tries to say, hey, this is what you need to do. I'm not interested in doing that, right? I'm interested in providing frameworks where folks can come in and utilize what they know about their community. And that's exactly what I actually want us to do next, right? So what I want to suggest is let's take 10 quick minutes here, stretch real quick, get some water, get another cup of coffee. I probably shouldn't have any more coffee. I think I'm good to go this morning. Take 10 minutes here. So let's actually come back. So 9 minutes, 10:35. Let's come back. And then this can be all about you all. I want to hear about your community, and I'm going to start taking some notes and asking some questions. So go grab the thinking caps that you left on the nightstand this morning, right? I want to get to all of you and start talking about your community. I wanted to share just an example. This is actually a plan that I worked with a community. Again, this was a community specifically for substance use, but just to show you kind of the framework of what, the development of these plans can look like using some of these ideas. So this was actually like a rural community, actually in rural Arizona. And they had this vision, right? Decreasing substance use related deaths in the community. And one of the goals that they wanted to work for was to open up a recovery home. This is a small town. It's not a big city, no kind of like recovery homes for people who needed that. So that was their goal. One of the goals that they wanted to come up with and to accomplish in service of that vision. So one of the strategies that they came up with, and again, it's just one, I'm just putting one example on here, was they had like a local housing board, and they wanted to get the local housing board in alignment with them on this. They wanted to get them on board with this idea of opening up a recovery home. So some of the tactics that they put into play, the tools they put into play to get this done, first off, they actually ran like a petition, right? They actually went out like in front of grocery stores, clipboard, getting signatures from just local residents and citizens to show the housing authority how much support this had in the community. They wrote a letter in support of the idea and got a bunch of different community leaders, political leaders, business leaders to sign on to the letter. And then they delivered that letter to the housing authority. They also got another tactic. They got a bunch of people who were in recovery from substance use, from alcohol and drug use, right? And they got them to go testify at the next housing authority meeting to share their stories of why recovery homes could be so important for the community. It all worked. Eventually, actually, it was about a year and a half, 2 years ago now, they broke ground on building a recovery home in the community. So I just wanted to share this as like one example of a plan that a community I had the pleasure to work with came up with using this very framework that we're talking about here for all of you. But this is really about all of you, right? So I'm going to pause and I want to turn it over to all of you here. And pretty simple question, but it can also be pretty loaded. Remember, visions provide a clear picture of where you want to go. So I want to hear from some of you here, and I'm going to write down a bunch of what I hear. So I want to be, if you see me looking down and away from me, it's because I'm writing. What is your vision? What is your vision for Los Angeles? What's your vision for your community? Remember, vision is the big dream. What is it that you're looking for? What is it that you want to do? What's the world that you want to live in? Turn it over to all of you, and I'll just start writing when I'm hearing stuff. What is your vision?
I share my vision with you. My vision is to empower men and women transitioning from the belly of the beast into the community.
Love that. Empower transitioning. From the belly of the beast to the community. I love that, LV. I love that because, again, like we said earlier, it's the big picture, right? Where you want to go. Awesome. Empower men and women transitioning from the belly of the beast into the community. And
for me, I would like to see a healthy, safe, nonviolent community.
Healthy, safe, nonviolent community. Healthy, safe, nonviolent community. Awesome. What else, folks?
I'd like to see greater help with the mentally ill. the mentally ill as a result of drug use. It's not all drug use, but the majority of the mentally ill people roaming the streets as homeless have a drug addicted problem that has impacted them mentally. So more mental health assistance in the community.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, Mike, if I could add a mechanism that will build communities' capacity to engage in community development, and through that community development, organizations are built and structured in a way where it creates our own social service, economic development infrastructure.
All right, communities own social service infrastructure. Awesome. Thank you, Reginald. So let me ask you all this, and it's just a question for everybody to think about. So far I've got 5 different visions here mapped out. Do you think that you all could take these 5 different visions, which are all very similar, by the way, right? Does everyone hear that? Everyone hear that we're hitting a lot of the same stuff here, right? We're talking about transitioning, healthy, safe, and nonviolent. We're talking about helping those who are suffering from mental illness and providing more mental health services, community development, getting organizations to build their own social service structure. Do you think that there's a way that you could tie all of these different ideas into a single vision that encompasses everything? What do you all think?
Yeah, definitely it could be done.
Definitely. And do you think that you could tie then? Oh, Cheryl, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Cheryl, and then Monica. I apologize.
One of the reasons why I think it can be done, because in the West Athens area, there was a facility which is now called Teach School, and that was a mental health and health services, social services building. And once removed, it deeply impacted the community. So for those infrastructures that were once there and now removed, have greatly impacted the community. And based on, I don't know whose decision, whether it was city, county, or whomever, it added to the destruction of the community. And I don't think thought was given in removing that facility to the community.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that I'm almost hearing a potential goal coming out, something to work towards that we can get to in a minute here, right? Coming out of this from what you're telling me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, Cheryl. How about Monica? Monica, go ahead.
So one of the visions for the West Athens Westmont Task Force is to build a healthy, happy community where everyone is thriving. So that's the vision. And so the goal was to interact with organizations in the community, from schools to law enforcement to all the entities that can essentially effect these changes. And so that is what we have done and we are doing, but the work continues, because when we're meeting and we're talking and we're strategizing, we're sharpening, our tools. And then from here, we have to go out into the community, and tear down these walls and let people know that we are here to serve, to provide this information, because we're doing the work. We're doing the work. We're fueling each other. And I believe that, my candle is going to light someone else's candle, and my flame is not going to go out. But I want to light or enlighten someone else so we can keep striving towards building a happy, safe, healthy community, because it's more than just, walking down the street and going to the park. It's about your health. It's about mental health. It's about physical health. It's about economic growth. So we're working on that, and that's the vision. And then everything we're doing, the goals, the interconnectivity that we're having with each other is so vital to the continued growth. And even with us partnering with all of the organizations, LA County, Department of Public Health, the schools, the law enforcement, it's all necessary. Yeah. But now we just have to keep growing and keep, using tactics and strategies to continue to touch lives, that's going to overall achieve the vision that we have.
That's right. Monica, thank you for sharing that. Monica, are you open to a quick piece of feedback?
Yes, absolutely.
So I love that idea of a healthy and safe, and you're so right about your assessment here of health. I couldn't agree with you more. So what I heard was a vision of creating a safe and healthy community. And then you talked about that one of your goals was to get organizations interacting with one another, yes. Right?
Yeah.
So I might offer the perspective that getting organizations to interact like that, to collaborate in a more effective way, is more of a strategy than a goal. I think there's something in between those two things, right? Because you have the vision, the community you want to build, right? And getting these organizations to collaborate is definitely an approach towards something. So I think the question I would ask, and you don't necessarily even have to answer it right now, just something to think about, right? Is what is just one, and you'll come up with a bunch, I bet, but what is just one measurable result that can come out of those organizations interacting with one another that is in service of your vision, right? Do you understand what I mean, Monica? Like, what's one measurable result that you think that interaction creates that is in service of your bigger vision?
Yeah, so let's just say one would be, for example, more scholarships, for our kids going to college. So we have a goal of, 50 students in the community going to college. That would be a goal or a goal. Or also getting those children that are homeless, into a home or facility. That's a goal that we're working on and that we're striving towards and that we are doing. Things like that. And then where kids can actually go to school safely with the safe passage programs that have been implemented. So those are goals.
Absolutely. Oh, that's awesome. Do you hear do you hear the difference where I'm going?
Yes.
And it's,
I do.
This is and I actually, Monica, I really, really appreciate you bringing this example to the table, because it's super common that when we're building these plans that we sometimes confuse the strategy for the goal, right? Because we have the vision and we know what we're doing every day, right? Because when we get into the office every day or we're out in the community, we're in a strategy, right?
Yeah.
We have like that bigger vision, like we know the world we want to create. And it's sometimes that middle part, the goal itself, that can get lost in the shuffle. But what am I really working towards right now? You know what I mean? It's like, think about it almost like if you're running a business, right? Like you have this vision of, having a profitable business that allows you to care and be responsible for your family, right? And then the strategy every day, it's like, I'm out meeting customers. I'm out, trying to sell my business. Well, the goal is to make X amount of dollars in a year. Right?
Right.
How much money do I actually have to make every year? Like so I love always, because I hear stuff like that a lot. It's always like, just remember. So when you said 50 scholarships, perfect. Awesome. Like that's a goal. And you listed more, right? You have multiple goals. Absolutely, right? You have multiple goals like in service of that greater vision. And every day you're in that strategy, getting these community groups to interact with each other, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yes.
So folks, I love you all these are 5 really powerful vision statements. And what I'm going to do is when I send the follow-up notes here to Cheryl Branch, I'm going to include them all. And I think that I think that you can have one vision that you're working towards that encompasses everything that you're talking about in here, right? A clear vision for the community that you all want to create. That's the driving force, right? I hear something safe and healthy, where people are actually a priority, right? Where there's services for folks, where folks have the tool they need, right? The idea of like, people say we have to pick ourselves up by our bootstraps, but somebody's got to give us the boots, right? I'm hearing a lot of that. I'm hearing we got to have a community where everybody's given the boots, Can't pick yourself up by your own bootstraps when nobody's done that. Cheryl, I see you off mute.
Actually, I'm a little surprised at what Monica said, because it's really important. And when I mentioned earlier about getting some of the scholarships that I had gotten done, one of the naysayers said to me several years ago that I couldn't get that money off of the Hill and have it have a trickle down effect into the Black and brown community. Well, that's happened. And we've gone as far this year to Gardena. And my next goal for 2021-22 is to get students out of Washington High into my scholarship program. So every year, just making it grow further into the Black and brown community is and has been a goal of mine since I got there. Awesome. That's just in that one area that I'm working in, but quite doable. It's just not listening to the naysayers and moving forward, pressing on.
Right. Take that chorus of cynics, as President Obama once said, and shove them to the side.
That's
Absolutely.
it.
So speaking of goals, folks, it's a good transition here, because I think you all very clearly, there is a joint, and I'm going to move us along only because we could spend 3 hours talking about taking all of these statements and drafting them into one clear vision here. I think you all have that. I think it's in here. I think you could almost literally just merge a couple of these things that you all have already contributed, and there you have it. You have a clear vision that you're working towards. You all know the community you want to build, right? So now you're starting to talk about goals. So you get this vision in place, and then you actually have to set some measurables. What are some things that we know we're going to do that are going to be in service of that vision, right? So folks have already come up with some here. I'm going to throw it out here in the interest of time, right? What are at least 3 goals that you think you can work towards in service of the vision? Just for time's sake right now, let's talk about 3 goals. There's a bunch of stuff in the chat, so I'll include that, Cheryl Branch, in the notes that I send off. But for conversation's sake here, can you all come up with 3 goals, specific, measurable goals that you can work on in service of this vision that you have for your community? And again, if I'm looking down this way, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just writing all your notes down.
Data, collecting data on everything that we do, any interaction, conversations, meeting. Let's find a way to collect that, formulate it so we can capture it.
So Kevin, let's make it measurable. So collecting data. So collect data from maybe a certain amount of people.
Yes, in everyday interaction that we might not think that we provide services, like a mentor, like a one-on-one conversation with a youth person.
Put a number on it, Kevin.
Hmm?
Put a number on it, Kevin. How many different people do you want to collect data, have a conversation with, right? Just put a number on it.
Within a year?
Sure.
I said, huh?
Yeah.
Within a year, 1,000.
Oh, perfect. So does everyone hear what that made, like how Kevin turned that right into a measurable goal right there? So collecting data and having a conversation with 1,000 people in the next year. Boom. That's a goal, something to work towards in service of that vision. Who else? Another goal. Let's do 2 more. 2 more goals you can work on. So Reginald's got one in the chat here. Launched 2 new organizations in each CAP community. I'll include that too when I do the write-up, but I'd love to hear from 2 more people up here. It's like 2 more goals that people can speak to as well. And I'll include all the ones in the chat too when I draw up notes for Ms. Cheryl. 2 more goals from you guys. Measurable results in service of your vision. Who wants to jump in here? You all have been shouting goals out here throughout our conversation this morning. Come on, you guys got this.
I'm going to say, and piggyback with Monica about getting more educational scholarships within the community and local schools.
All right. How many, Cheryl? How many and how long is it going to take you to get there?
This process will only take months. So I'm going to say, well, 7 or 8 months, because we're already almost at the end of we're at the end of the school year. So yeah. By the end of the following school year, which will be a year, and we should be looking at least 5 scholarships within the community.
Awesome. 5 scholarships in the next 7 to 8 months. And folks, one thing, I love that. One thing I want to say about goals too, right? 5 scholarships in the next 7 to 8 months. And you all know this, but I'll say it anyway. Doesn't mean you stop at 5, right? If you get 13, you get
absolutely
14, right? And once
my goal was 25, and we got 46.
There you go, right?
It doubled last year, as I mentioned. So it's totally doable. And the one thing we don't discriminate based on income. There's no income restriction, or in fact, some of the kids' parents make so much money that we do an elimination on those because they can afford.
Sure.
And the girl in the car received a full ride to Grambling University.
Oh, that's awesome. And Cheryl, I bet when you set that goal of 25, I bet number 26 felt like complete, right? And then 27 and then 28, right?
It was, oh my God, where are we going to get more money? And the money kept coming. The money kept coming because we kept pressing people.
Well, the money kept coming because you created something that powerful.
Well, my group, my club, collectively, we just pressed forward, and we dialed the phone. We got on the phone, and we sent emails. And those that didn't have emails, we just called, and it was to the point of harassment, but it worked.
That's awesome. That's what you do, to the point of harassment. Harass away, folks, in service of your goals and your vision. Harass. Listen to people, right? Be good listeners, but go harass. You know, the worst thing you're going to hear is no from people.
And you might hear 100 before you get 1.
Yes, you might. But again, don't join that chorus of sentence.
No, not. I was stamping that down on my mirror. That's going to be one of those positive affirmations.
Don't join the chorus of cynics. Thank President Obama for that, not me. That comes from him. So we've got 2 goals here. So we got collect data and have conversations with 1,000 folks in the next year. We got 5 scholarships, educational scholarships in the next 7 to 8 months. Let's come up with 1 more that folks are willing to verbalize here. I'll put the stuff in the chat in too, but use the power of your voices, folks. Speak into this one. 1 more goal in service of these visions that you've come up with.
What about having the community-based grassroots organization fully funded by 2022?
So Kevin, what I might I love that. What I might suggest is, again, put a dot, like approximately how much money do you think that might actually take, and put a dollar amount on it, like
500,000 a year.
So let's say by 2023, right, raise $500,000 to fund community-based organizations.
Yes. For intervention. We almost there.
Awesome.
And would you be opposed to me making it $1 million? Could we double that?
Hell yeah, yes.
Okay, I know I'm not a CAP member, but I want to thank you. I think you could double that. So when you say 2023, can I ask another clarifying question? Would you like that to be the calendar year or the fiscal year? Remember, the fiscal year begins July 2023, or do you want that? Let's accomplish that by January 2023.
2023.
Okay, the calendar year, love it. Okay, January 2023 to fund 1 lead community organization for violence intervention in the two communities, or is it one each?
One each. One for Westmont, one for the Wattswater Brook.
Great, and that's where the 500,000 each comes in. Okay,
Yes.
you swift, my brother. You see where I was going with that?
Yeah.
So we raised
and you
$1
are a
million.
CAP member, sis. You are a CAP member.
Thank you. Okay.
Sworn in.
Thank you. Sworn in. I love it. I love it. You united me.
So folks,
We got it.
I love, this is awesome. So is everyone here seeing, right? Just throw up a yes or no in the chat. Just everyone here seeing how what you all have just come up with are 3 measurable goals that you can work towards in service of that greater vision, right? I see Kevin gave a thumbs up, right? Measurable goals. And whenever you have a goal in mind, I see Monica says yes too, awesome. Whenever you have a goal in mind, the way that I suggest that you check yourself just to say, is this really a goal that I'm coming up with, is again, asking yourself, how do you measure something? And you measure it by having a hard number or a hard time frame on it. Throw that on. Sometimes we have something that's like almost a goal. All we need to do is put a measurable onto it, and then you got a goal. So you got some vision, you got some goals, right? Next, you need some strategies. And remember, strategies are the approaches that you take to reach your goals, right? It's how do you get there? What's the road you're going to take to get there? So of these 3 goals, right, that you came up with, let's just think about one of them right now for the purposes of time, right? So which one, if there's one of these, whether it's the collecting data and having 1,000 conversations, 5 scholarships in 7 to 8 months, or raising $1 million, which one do you all want to focus on right now, just for the purpose of this conversation? Just pick one of them.
For me, it's going to be data collection.
Data collection. Is everyone cool if we go with data collection just for the sake of this exercise? I see yes. I see a yes. I haven't seen any no's yet, so I'm going to go with that. So let's say the data collection goal. Let's look at that one. So folks, thinking about this, right? Strategies are the approaches we take to reach our goals. Can you come up with 3 strategies that you want to work towards in service of that vision, right? 3 strategies in order to reach that goal. So the goal is, again, to collect data and have conversations with 1,000 people in the next year. What are 3 strategies, 3 approaches you can take to reach that? How might you have those conversations, right? I might think about that in terms of strategies. How would you actually be having these conversations? Think about it like that. So I see a couple things up in the chat that so polling in the community, a survey, I got that. Okay, so that can be one, right? That's definitely one, some kind of a public survey, right? In the community, you can find ways to do that. That can definitely be one strategy. What's the second one here? Another strategy, another approach you can take to have these conversations.
Town halls.
So town hall forums, Kevin, I'll say, I think town hall forums are oftentimes almost more of they can be more of a tactic, but maybe in this case, you could use it as a strategy. Is it okay? Can we put that one to the side for a second, Kevin, and think on it?
Yes.
Is that all right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So hold the conversation with community members, lead the data collection, discuss strategy. I'm just trying to think, if you have town hall forums, host town hall forums, local park forums, you know what you might want to do with that, Kevin? I'll throw this out there to everybody, is your strategy could be host a series of events in the community, right? And town hall forums can be one of the series of events. It becomes a tool, right? Does that make sense?
Definitely.
So one of your strategies here can be host a series of community events to raise, right, to gather information, right?
Yes, and awareness.
And awareness, that's right. And I'm going to earmark town hall forums because there's other events you can hold too, right? Town hall forums are just one. All right, so we got 2 strategies here. We got putting together a public survey. We got host a series of community events. What might be one more approach you can take to have these conversations? One more strategy to reach your goal?
Zoom meetings.
Okay. So planning meetings, right? Normal, right? We got to have some planning meetings on here. So how, what if you even change that a little bit, Kevin, to like planning meetings that are always expanding, always adding more people, right?
Yes.
So planning meetings that are always adding more people to the fight, adding more people to the journey. Awesome. I see Cheryl, you're writing stuff down too. Awesome. Your notes in the chat are nicer than mine. Mine are getting all scribbly here. You probably can't see. Right.
I'm keeping them there for us. Yeah, as they're just popping up, I'm just repeating them verbatim, and then we can sharpen it, because these are the roadmap steps, and this is way more than they're paying for. We should be. I mean, this is some good stuff.
It's all coming from, right? I just want to.
Yeah.
I want to call out and highlight that all this good stuff is coming from all you, right? So own the power of this group and what you all are contributing here, because all I'm doing is writing sloppy notes. So I'm taking that. I'll get you.
Amazing. I can't wait to get you. Oh.
So we got, all right. So let's go back here. Let's go backwards for a second, folks. So we got this vision that you all can come together and get these 5 different statements into one vision, because it's all the same general idea, right? So the goals that you've come up with, just 3, and you all are going to keep working and coming up with more, right? Just 3 for purposes of our exercise. Collecting data and having conversations with 1,000 folks in a year. Putting together 5 scholarships in the next 7 to 8 months, educational scholarships, and raising $1 million by calendar year 2023 to fund 2 different community-based organizations, right? We looked at the data collection here and coming up with some strategies you all did for how you have those conversations to collect data. 1 was put together a public survey. 2 was hosting a series of community events to gather information and raise awareness. And 3 was to hold planning meetings, adding more and more people to the process every time. So those are 3 strategies, and you're going to come up with more. So now let's remember, tactics are the tools that we're using to execute those strategies. So let's just, again, for purposes of this conversation, pick one of those 3 strategies just for right now. So it can be the public survey, can be the how do y'all feel, actually, if you don't mind, because you're already getting there a little bit with this one, looking at the second strategy, the hosting a series of community events to gather info and raise awareness. Do you want to look at that one a little more?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So community events, I'm going to put that down here. So can you all think of, I already heard one, y'all cheated. You already have one here. So I'll put that down already, right? Town hall forums, right? Kevin cheated, but that's all right. Cheating's all right here. It's about time we cheat to get what we need a little bit. So we got 1 tactic. Can you all come up with 2 more tactics? 2 more tools you can use to host, 2 more tools you can use to get these community events up and going. What are other types of events you can do, right? See, LV and Monica both off of mute, and Cheryl too. Do any of you have something to contribute?
I would say door-to-door campaigning. We pick a Saturday or one day during the week and just take a couple of hours and just do a door-to-door thing of folks. You know, some may be cooperative, some may not. Some may be willing to spill it all. But it's just a tactic or a strategy, I think.
So I would say, actually, can I throw out there that I actually think you're talking about a tool here, right? Using door-to-door canvassing, or we call it doorbelling up here in the Northwest. I don't know why, but
okay,
right? Canvassing is what I grew up calling it, right? Door-to-door canvassing to go listen to, right? You can go door-to-door and ask, listen to people. And even, folks, here's a neat thing about that tactic. It actually could be aimed at 2 of your strategies, right? It could be both part of, it can be part of listening to the community to raise awareness, and it can also go towards your public survey. Sometimes you get a tactic in your plan that actually can apply to more than 1 strategy too. So I actually think you're coming up with killing 2 birds with 1 stone with this one. Awesome stuff. So town hall forums, door-to-door canvassing. What's 1 more tool you guys are thinking about?
Block parties. Block parties work.
Block parties. I love, I think something that can get missed a lot, folks, when you're building an organizing plan is finding things in here, because this is serious work, right? But finding things in here that are not only in service of your vision, but are also a good time. Don't forget about that. It's important. The more that you do that, guess what? The more people are going to join you, because this is an amazing group of 12 people, but it's going to take more than 12 people.
Yes.
Right? And that's, you're going to get drawn in by stuff like that. I see Reginald says in the chat too, creating subcommittee. Sure. So folks, it's coming up on 11:15 here. And I was going to hold the last 15 minutes here for just conversation and questions and whatnot. So I just want to say, here I have a bunch of pages and notes here. And I know Miss Cheryl's been writing stuff up there too. Folks, you just wrote the beginnings of an organizing plan. That's what you just did. So what I want to just kind of, last thing I want to contribute here before I just pause and hear from all of you is this framework, that if you stick to this framework and you connect these dots together, the plan starts to write itself, right? It's right there. You actually almost, you know, if you're going to make this bigger plan, it's a conversation, right? And you just jot all of this stuff down. The plan is sitting with all of you right now. But if you come up with this plan and you put it on paper and then you stick to it, what you end up creating in your community is this sense of purpose. Because sometimes we can have a big vision. Everybody, most people have a vision of what they want their lives to look like and what they want their communities to look like. But putting this kind of structure on it actually shows you how you get there. We spend a lot of time thinking about where we want to go, and we don't take much time figuring out our directions. And that's what this provides, right? Is the direction to get to where you want to be and the direction to where we want to go. And I want to emphasize something too. Plans change. So plan your work and work your plan, write it down, because if you don't, it's not a plan. And then know something's going to change. You're going to reach one goal. You're going to come up with another one. You're going to exceed a goal. You're going to come up with another one. You're going to fall short on a goal. You're going to edit the goal. One of your strategies isn't working. You're going to change strategies. One of your tools breaks. You're going to buy a new tool. It's all part of the plan, right? It's all part of working towards the vision that we want in our communities. So if it's all right, folks, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to stop my screen share here so I can see folks. And it's 11:15, 11:16. What's bubbling up for you all here? What are you taking away from this? What are you hearing for yourselves? Questions, thoughts, comments, anything you say is a contribution.
Well, it goes back to last week's conversation of us putting together something, how to request something and so on. And like today with the strategy putting together, first, if we know our target, we have to understand what it is they're looking for, what they want. To simplify what direction are we going in, if we target a certain councilman, you know, want something, let's find out what they likes are, they desire, and we strategize, get behind that, put our effort behind that.
That's right. You know, one of the strategies, Kevin, I love that. Let's say that you're working, let's say one of the goals that you figure out you need to do is you need to get a certain law passed, right? You need the county, what does LA call them again? Is it supervisors? What does the LA County call? Every county calls it supervisors. And you figure out you need the board of supervisors to pass some law. And that's one of the goals that you decide you need to work towards. Well, one of the strategies is going to be, how do you get to 50% plus one, right? How do you get to 50% plus one on that board of supervisors to get what you need? That's going to involve some of the tactics you'll have to use to do that is to go listen to those folks, go meet with them, go hear what drives them, right? Do your research. Right? Maybe one tactic is go meet with them. A second tactic is somebody goes back and reads every darn article that you ever heard written about that person in their life, figuring out everything that makes them tick, right? That can be one of the tools too. You're always adding more strategies. And I almost think what I would suggest is you sit down with a piece of paper as a group in person when you can. And you can do it on Zoom too. You can draw a whiteboard, just draw it out, write the goal at the top and just, you know, sometimes a goal has 17 different strategies associated with it, but write every one of them down. Put it down. And then you'll have all your tactics down there. And then you can say, all right, Monica, can you work on this? Reginald, can you do this? Are you committed to this? Cheryl, can you do this? Are you committed to this? And build the whole conversation about what every single person is committed to and what they're willing to commit to. And then hold each other accountable, right? And that's part of the deal too, man. You got to hold each other accountable.
That's the action plan.
That's right. That's right. But you have to, it's funny because we always talk about action plans. And this is just me, it's editorial here, just my opinion. Like, I think you need this before you have the action plan. I think sometimes we do it backwards. We want to do an action plan, but we don't really know what we're working towards.
Right. Correct.
This helps you see what you're working towards. And those tactics and tools and the bottom two strategies in your tactics, they become your action plan, right? What else, folks? What's bubbling up? What questions you have and what are you taking away from this?
I'm just super encouraged. I'm encouraged. I just feel better that we're going to get this done. It's going to be a powerful report. I could see us having a series of meetings just to have the conversation with the community about here's what we've compiled, and we give them a chance to have additional input, and we publish it again by September, October, with the community's input as well, so we officially expand the circle. All of the CAP organizations, especially this 12 people here, should be co-author on the plan, the roadmap. And so that's the first step of growing the two lead agencies that we're going to form and the data organization role. Like, we can formalize that in the next 30 days by agreeing we're all going to participate in this. And I just feel encouraged. That would be my word. I'm encouraged.
That's awesome. And one other thing I'll throw out there to everybody too is when you're thinking of the goals, right? Y'all have the vision, but if you're thinking about the goals, go listen to the community, right? They're going to give you more goals because there might be something. I mean, there's stuff that the community may be just dying for out there that, nobody's ever asked them. Nobody's ever asked them. You all get to be the opportunity for the community to be heard in a way that maybe some folks feel like they never have. You all get to provide that opportunity to folks as part of this.
Mm-hmm.
In the last 8 minutes, I wanted to just notice everyone, check your chat. The mini grant from the city of LA for doing outreach and awareness. So I don't think you have to be, you could be in the county, but you need to just document that you are going to serve a neighborhood council. So they give you a chance to write that up. So I think that makes most of you actually eligible to apply. I put the Word document there, and I will also, we'll email it out later today. I have one thing from 12 to 2, and then after that, I'll send out the Word document. But it's here in the chat. If you're able to get it. And if you don't, let me know. So that concludes both grants this week. We sent you each up to $5,000 to do outreach, promotion, education, newsletters, all the things that we do. Activate your social media, build up your designers that are, curating basically your content. And all of these strategies and tactics will be folded into the larger roadmap and our collective leadership plan. This is awesome. I mean, I can't thank Michael King enough. He will be back. I want to let you all know that I will have him back. He is an essential part of the team, and I'm building him in. I explained to him when he started that we would be on a multi-year track because we had an assignment. We have a mission to get the CAP agencies there in the next few years. And so he will be here to help us.
It's such an honor to be included with all of you in this conversation. So Cheryl, I want to thank you again for the opportunity to come spend time with everybody. And I hope to keep getting to know all of you over time. It's just a real honor to be part of the conversation, Cheryl. So thanks again for the opportunity.